Welcome, everybody, to the Urantia book. This book has the power to change the world, and it also has the power to upstep you on an individual level. Enjoy a more happy, fruitful, and helpful life of service to your fellow humans. Let's start off with a random quote from the Urantia book. Having started out on the way of life everlasting, having accepted the assignment and received your orders to advance, do not fear the dangers of human forgetfulness and mortal inconstancy. Do not be troubled with doubts of failure or by perplexing confusion. Do not falter and question your status and standing, for in every dark hour, at every crossroad, in the forward struggle, the Spirit of truth will always speak, saying, "This is the way." So that Spirit of truth, that's a divine entity, folks, and we are indwelt with that. So we have this perfect guide because we have started out on the life everlasting. So beautiful quote. Remember, this book is not written by human beings. It's written by advanced celestial personalities. And if you don't believe that, judge with an open mind and you will see. Today we are going to look at this part called political sovereignty. This was actually a lesson taught by Jesus of Nazareth in the Urmia lectures. But before we do that, why do we need some sort of lesson on political sovereignty? I wrote down the day's headlines, so forgive my pen scratch writing here. And we can see, not only does this book give us the way forward, but it also has a searing portrayal of the backwardsness, the rebelliousness of our planet. And we think it's status quo. And that's why it takes a divine revelation like this to say, you're backwards. That's not the way that things go as a whole in other inhabited planets. But we have no other way of knowing what's happening there. So first one, Harris and Trump squabble over debate rules. Okay, this is about turning the microphone on or off. That's a distraction. That doesn't mean anything to anybody if they turn those microphones on or off. That was the number one headline. Okay, so that's your distraction. Number two, Netanyahu faces calls for broader strikes against Hezbollah. Okay, they want him to do more, kill more innocent people. And then everybody will different arguments about, well, they need to do it to defend themselves, blah, blah, blah. But this is why we're going to learn about this political sovereignty, okay? Because when we hear about this, there won't be any argument about whether or not somebody's defending themselves or if they're just, going too far. Okay, next one. Russian deadly barrage of missiles and drones hit over half of Ukraine. Okay, so more death, backwardsness, primitive animal killing. Animals, That's not even human, okay? Remember, it goes from animal to super animal to human and then to superhuman. Once you embrace spirituality, now you're a superhuman. You understand what it means that you're human, but you're more. You understand that you have a spiritual indwelling within you. This is maybe super animal, okay? It's super animal because animals don't have weaponry, but they would do, savage killing and whatnot. A Russian Elon Musk with over 100 biological children billionaire, Pavel Durov. Okay, that's a distorted mind right there. If you hold billions and billions of dollars while other people are dying in the street, and people are starving and that sort of thing, that right there, that's a distorted mentality. And so this person is having 100 biological children. They probably think that they need to spread their seed and whatever because they're so wealthy but they're greedy. And so they're going to have genetically pass on this, remember, we're 50% nature and 50% nurture, roughly. Okay. And especially, okay, well, we don't need to get into that. Hospital in central Gaza empties out as Israeli forces draw near. Okay, so that is more savagery. All right, let's attack the hospitals. Okay. Tourists dies after ice collapse in Breidamurjokul Glacier. Okay, climate disaster. Remember, climate is going to do for the world what no other spiritual teacher has been able to do. and that is get us to change, get us to see the light, because not even billionaire Pavel Durov and his 100 children are going to be able to stem off what's coming. Financial collapse, and so last one, financial rate cut euphoria fades as oil prices jump 3.5%. Okay, it's euphoria. That is an unbalanced state. This is the thing that's causing this. Everybody's paying more to do this. And the economic system has already collapsed. We're living in a failed system. We're living in a failed society. It's a world that's held captive by evil. The book explains that. And there's superhuman controllers of this planet, evil beings that have fallen into rebellion. But we don't have to that has nothing to this is not a prophecy of doom and gloom. This is just the reality of the world that we live in. We're skating above this stuff. We are transcending this stuff because we have become spiritual. So political sovereignty, let's just read through this. This is Jesus teaching on political sovereignty. We'll see where we get through it. While the master's teaching concerning the sovereignty of God is a truth only complicated by the subsequent appearance of the religion about him among the world's religions, his presentations concerning political sovereignty are vastly complicated by the political evolution of nation life during the last 1900 years or more. So he gave this lecture, but it's so much more complicated now. And not only that, but everybody formed this basically political ideology, this Christian nationalism around him, which wasn't supposed to happen. That wasn't his idea, that you should form this Christian nationalism. In the times of Jesus, there was only two great world powers, the Roman Empire in the west and the Han Empire in the east. And these were widely separated by the Parthian kingdom and other intervening lands of the Caspian and Turkestan regions. We have, therefore, in the following presentation, departed more widely from the substance of the Master's teachings at Urmia concerning political sovereignty, at the same time attempting to depict the import of such teachings as they are applicable to the peculiarly critical stage of the evolution of political sovereignty in the 20th century after Christ. Okay, peculiarly critical. War on Urantia will never end so long as nations cling to the elusive notions of unlimited national sovereignty. Write that on your heart and embed that in your mind. It will never end. Okay? You're always going to have... Now, what's the solution, though? Because this book isn't just doom and gloom. There are only two levels of relative sovereignty on an inhabited world. The spiritual free will of the individual mortal. See, nobody can take that away. That's the divine plan. And the collective sovereignty of mankind as a whole. Now, that can be taken away. Between the level of the individual human being and the level, the total of mankind, all groupings and associations are relative, transitory, and of value only insofar as they enhance the welfare, well-being, and progress of the individual in the planetary grand total, man and mankind. So that's the only value that it has. Religious teachers must always remember that spiritual sovereignty of God overrides all intervening and intermediate spiritual loyalties. Someday civil rulers will learn that the Most Highs rule in the kingdoms of men. So even though it seems like that evil is in control of this world, because it is, that is just, and this is kindergarten, okay? They're allowing the kindergartners to learn their lessons, but they're not letting it go out beyond the sandbox. This rule of the Most Highs in the kingdom of men is not for the especial benefit of any especially favored group of mortals. There is no such thing as a chosen people. So that goes right there. Netanyahu, they all think it. They all think they're the chosen. The Muslims, Christians, everybody thinks they're the chosen people. But that's why we're in this state that we're in. Now this is a beautiful quote right here. The rule of Most Highs, the overcontrollers of political evolution, is a rule designed to foster the greatest good to the greatest number of all men and for the greatest length of time, okay? The greatest good for the greatest number. That is what the political ideology and goals should be. And it's not socialist. Nobody wants a handout. It shouldn't be a handout. It should be well balanced. But there shouldn't be this uneven distribution of wealth like we have, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Sovereignty is power, and it grows by organization. This growth of the organization of political power is good and proper, for it tends to encompass ever-widening segments of the total of mankind. But this same growth of political organizations creates a problem at ever-intervening stage between the initial and natural organization of political power, the family, and the final consummation of political growth, the government of all mankind, by all mankind, and for all mankind. Okay, so it starts with the family, and then ideally it would be for all, A-L-L. Starting out with parental power in the family group, political sovereignty evolves by organization as families overlap in consanguineous clans which become united for various reasons into tribal units, super consanguineous political groupings, and then by trade, commerce, and conquest, tribes become unified as a nation, while nations themselves sometimes become unified as an emperor. So it goes from families to tribes, so forth. As sovereignty passes from smaller groups to larger groups, wars are lessened. That is, minor wars between smaller nations are lessened, but the potential for greater wars is increased as the nations wielding sovereignty become larger and larger. Presently, when all the world has been explored and occupied, when nations are few, strong and powerful, when these great and supposedly sovereign nations come to touch borders, when only oceans separate them, then will the stage be set for major wars, worldwide conflicts. So-called sovereign nations cannot rub elbows without generating conflicts and eventuating wars. So we know that from history. The difficulty in the evolution of political sovereignty from the family to all mankind lies in the inertia resistance exhibited on all intervening levels. Families have, on association, defied their clan, while clans and tribes have been subversive of the sovereignty of the territorial state. Each new and forward evolution of political sovereignty is, and always has been, embarrassed and hampered by the scaffolding stages of the previous developments in political organization. And this is true because human loyalties, once mobilized, are hard to change. The same loyalties which make possible the evolution of the tribe make difficult the evolution of the supertribe, the territorial state, and the same loyalties, patriotism, which make possible the evolution of territorial state, vastly complicates the evolutionary development of the government of all mankind. Okay, so that's not us, though. We are wise men and women who live by what truth we can find today, wholly ready to call it a falsehood tomorrow. So we're not resistant to change. Political sovereignty is created out of the surrender of self-determinism, first by the individual within the family, and then by the families and clans in relation to the tribes and larger groupings. This progressive transfer of self-determination from the smaller to even larger political organizations has generally proceeded unabated in the East since the establishment of the Ming Mughal dynasties. In the West, it obtained for more than 1,000 years, right on down to the end of the World War, when an unfortunate retrograde movement temporarily reversed this normal trend by reestablishing the submerged political sovereignty of numerous small groups in Europe. Eurasia will not enjoy lasting peace until the so-called sovereign nations intelligently and fully surrender their sovereign powers into the hands of the brotherhood of men, mankind government. So that's saying we need to form one world government, but it's a government of peace. Internationalism, leagues of nations like we have right now, not the UN, the NATO and all that, can never bring permanent peace to mankind. Worldwide confederations of nations will effectively prevent minor wars and acceptably control the smaller nations, but they will not prevent world wars, as we're seeing right now. We're in many world wars, nor control the 3, 4, 5 most powerful governments. In the face of real conflicts, one of these world powers will withdraw from the League and declare war. You can not prevent nations going to war as long as they remain infected with the delusional virus of national sovereignty. Now that right there, that is searing. Internationalism is a step in the right direction. An international police force will prevent many minor wars, but it will not be effective in preventing major wars, conflicts between the great military governments of Earth. Okay, so we have that with our UN, but the UN doesn't have power to really do anything. They just kind of say, like, they'll say, oh, well, this person's a war criminal, but we're not going to do anything about it. As the number of truly sovereign nations, great powers, decreases, so do both opportunity and need for mankind government increase. When there are only a few really sovereign, great powers, either they must embark on the life and death struggle for national imperial supremacy, or else by voluntary surrender of certain prerogatives of sovereignty, they must create the essential nucleus of the supranational power, which will serve as the beginning of the real sovereignty of all mankind. Peace will not come to Urantia until every so-called sovereign nation surrenders its powers to make war into the hands of a representative government of all mankind. Political sovereignty is innate with the peoples of the world. When all the peoples of Urantia, that's the name of our planet, create a world government, they have the right and the power to make such a government sovereign. And when such a representative or democratic world power controls the world's land, air, and naval forces, peace on earth and goodwill among men can prevail, but not until then. So what they're saying is that we need one world government. Everybody, we could still make they compare it to the United States. Okay, here. Let's just go here. To use an important 19th and 20th century illustration, the 48 states of the American Federal Union have long enjoyed peace. They have no more wars among themselves. They have surrendered their sovereignty to the federal government, and through the arbitrament of war, they have abandoned all claims to the delusions of self-determination. While each state regulates its internal affairs, see, that's the key. They can still elect whatever they want. It is not concerned with foreign relations, tariffs, immigrations, military affairs, or interstate commerce. Neither do the individual states concern themselves with matters of citizenships. The 48 states suffer the ravages of war only when the federal government's sovereignty is in some way jeopardized. So somebody wants to secede. Also, they don't care about citizenships and they can pass between. If we had one world government, there would not be oppressed nations that need to do mass migration into other nations. That one world government would say, oh, well, you don't want to be a part of the world government because you want to be this drug cartel and think that you're going to have your own government and that you're going to oppress your people. No, we control every single military in the entire world. You're done. We're going to go in and we're going to remove that leader, and the people won't want to migrate anymore because their country is going to be nice. So just like the states, the people from Texas aren't saying we need to go over here because we're being oppressed. But individuals but the time for mass migration is over. These 48 states, having abandoned the twin sophistries of sovereignty and self-determination, enjoy interstate peace and tranquility. So will the nations of Urantia begin to enjoy peace when they freely surrender their respective sovereignties into the hands of a global government. It seems scary, and we've been programmed to think that this one world government, new world order, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's what we have. We have a new world order, but it's one that's formed by billionaires, warmongers, banksters, evil forces, and evil powers. Okay, so that's what our world system is designed around. This is saying form it around good. Okay, form it around the good of all. See right here. enjoy peace when they freely surrender their respectives into the hands of the global government, the sovereignty of the brotherhood. Okay, so if you're brothers and sisters, you're not going to make war. In this world state, the small nations will be as powerful as the great, even as the small state of Rhode Island has its 2 senators in the American Congress, just the same as the populous state of New York or the large state of Texas. Okay, so that's all we're going to get into today. Thank you so much, everybody, for your subscriptions and likes. Let's get the word out there. As you can see, these are the real solutions to this. So thanks again.